Hello friends, welcome to Literary Hub. In today's class, we are going to learn about Descent of English, Indo-European family of languages and its branches as well Grimm's Law. So we know the importance of these things in coming all the competitive exams like JL, DL, PhD, UGC NET, SET and all, right? Let's get into the topic without wasting time. Descent of English. What is this? Coming to the introduction of this, there are plenty of languages over world. The modern linguistic research has shown that languages can be grouped in families. Pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary of a language are traced to the other. There are several families, but we shall limit ourselves to Indo-European family as English is one of them. Right? So this tells us that. So here you can observe that modern linguistic research has shown that languages can be grouped in families. There are many other families. Families in the sense, what do you mean by families? There are many kinds of languages. But then what we observe pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary of a language and trace to the other. Right? All these things come, the mixture of all these things like a pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, all these things traced, isn't it? And these things makes a language perfect, right? There are several families, but we shall limit ourselves to Indo-European family as English is one of them, right? So though the language has been derived from many other aspects, as this tells us that descent of English tells us that this language has been derived from many other languages, but then we consider that Indo-European family as the main and predominant one when it comes to the learning of this English language. The name of the family is Indo-European one, where English has derived the thing which we considered to learn this English, and the thing that means the language or the family which we derive, which we derive to learn the language English is, that is the family Indo-European one. Aryan and Indo-Germanic names are there. Nearly 3,500 years ago, Romantic tribes around the Black Sea and Siberia used to speak it, right? So when nearly 3,500 years ago, Romantic tribes, who are that? Romantic tribes, very important point, you must remember that. So many a times these kind of questions have been repeated. So Aryan and Indo-Germanic names are there. So 3,500 years ago, who were the tribes in the sense? Romantic tribes around the Black Sea and around the Black Sea and Siberia, isn't it? Used to speak it. What it is? That is Indo-Germanic, isn't it? That is English, which has been derived from the family that is Indo-European one. These tribes dispersed across the subcontinent. So what happened? There's Romantic tribes or Siberia people who have learned this language. So what happened? They have departed. They have dispersed to many other places, isn't it? Dispersed across the subcontinent, many places. So what happened? Here we people are there. Whatever the language we have learned, when we have shifted to one or the other place, what happened? The language which we developed, which we have learned, there is a chance of spreading that language. As these people have learned this language, what happened? It was happened for them to disperse across the continent. Isolation of a tribe gave rise to inaddition and omission. So what happened when these people have shifted, migrated? So what happened? Have given rise to addition and omission of many other things, change in the main language. So what happened nowadays? We are observing that when people are speaking, so what happened? Mixture of Hindi as well Urdu we used to observe when people are speaking Hindi, right? So Telangana accent also, if you might have seen, many Urdu words will come used to come in their regular spoken words, right? So such a way as these people have migrated, when they started this language spreading over there, at the time what happened? There are many words and many dialects which was happened to addition as well omission. Right. So that has led to change in the main language by 200 BC. The term family refers to those languages that share common characteristics, isn't it? So family, what do you mean by family? Family, it refers that refers to those languages share common characteristics. Family in the sense, this is all a family. So my family, right? My family indicates that number of people around, number of people in the family. But then we consider it as a one group, right? So such a way, this is a family. The term family refers to those languages, the different languages, and share common characteristics. Common characteristics. Languages having common characteristics belong to one family, right? So mostly will have the common characteristics. That means like it may be the pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, and the way we are pronouncing the dialect and all, right? So they all descendant from a common parent. They're all descendant from a common parent in the sense, what do you mean by descendant here? Which have come from the same family. I mean, which have that means inbuilt in that, right? The world languages are classified under 8 families. What are that 8 families and how it has been divided? Let us see now, right? Right. So you can see here, Sino-Tibetan. Those are, you can see, Sino-Tibetan, Indo-European, Dravidian, Afro-Asiatic, Nigo-Congo, Maya-Polynesian, and Nishada languages and Kosian dialects. These are the 8 families. So you may be getting a question, number of times it was repeated. So all the languages have been descended from a common parent. So it was classified under how many families? Then 8 families, right? So what are those? Like a Sino-Tibetan, Indo-European, Dravidian, Afro-Asiatic, Niger-Congo, and the Maya-Polynesian, and Nishada languages, and Kosian dialects. So these are the 8 families, right? Let us get into the next slide. Right. Let us see branch of Indo-European languages. What are the branches of Indo-European languages? Very, very important. Number of times there are questions which I have seen in the previous papers and also the in the sample papers of all this PhD UGC-NET and all. So what are the branches of Indo-European languages? Put it in the order. Such a way many questions have come. Let us see in detail about this Indo-European languages, right? So Indo-European is a family of languages, including most of the languages spoken in Europe. So Indo-European, nothing but family of languages, including most of the languages spoken in Europe, India, and Iran. So Indo-European is a family of languages. How it was considered as a family of languages? Because languages spoken in Europe, India, and Iran descendant from a common tongue spoken, descended, which has been derived, isn't it, which has derived from a common tongue spoken in 3rd millennium BC, when it was 3rd millennium BC by an agricultural people originating in southeastern Europe, right? The Indo-European languages have a large number of branches. What are those branches? Anatolian. What are those branches? Anatolian. You can say Anatolian, Indo-Iranian, Greek, Italic, Celtic, Germanic, Armenian, Tocharian, Balto-Slavic, and Albanian. Very, very important. So Indo-European languages have a large number of branches. Do we find any branches in Indo-European languages? Yes, we find them. What are those? Once again, I'm just repeating. Anatolian, Indo-Iranian, Greek, Italic, Celtic, Germanic, Armenian, Tocharian, Balto-Slavic, and Albanian. These are the branches of Indo-European languages. Isn't it? Very, very important aspect. Let us see in detail about all these branches, right? So once again, I just want to repeat this value points. Indo-European is a family of languages, isn't it? So why it was considered as a family of languages? Because it includes the languages spoken in Europe, India, and Iran, descendant which is derived from a common tongue spoken in the 3rd millennium BC. By whom? By agricultural people originating in southeastern Europe, right? So here you can see the branches which were there in this, right? Let us see in detail about this branches, right? The first one which we have seen is Anatolian. So how this branch has been derived. Of course, many of this have not been seen, now not been used at present. Important to know about these things, right? So let us see about these things, right? This branch of languages was predominant in the Asian portion of Turkey and some areas in northern Syria. So what happened? This branch of languages was predominant in the Asian portion of Turkey, isn't it? So what predominant? So predominant, what do you mean by predominant? Predominant in the sense, it means that main or chief, isn't it, very, very important in which place it is Asian portion of Turkey and some areas in the northern Syria. So these are the places. Students, please try to understand these are the places. The branch of languages was predominant in Asian portion of Turkey and some areas in the northern Syria. Please try to understand that. So this is the one which is very important, that is Anatolian branch, isn't it? That is Anatolian branch, very, very important, in which portion, that is in Turkey as well in some of the areas of northern Syria. The most famous of these languages, Hittite. So the most famous of these languages, Hittite. So Hittite is also a place, ancient people, isn't it? So that particular place, the ancient people in 1906 CE. So well, in the year, that is in the year 1906 CE, a large amount of Hittite finds were made on the site of Hitasis. So Hitasis, in the sense, was the capital of Hittite Empire in the late Bronze. So don't get confused what is this Hitasis and what is this Hittite and all. Please don't get confused, my dear students. So Hittite in the sense ancient people, and Hitasis in the sense it was a capital of the Hittite. It was a capital of this Hittite when Hittite Empire in the late Bronze. The capital of Hittite kingdom were about 10,000 cuneiform tablets. So here it is the place, and that means here the distance, whatever it was that was given, and various other fragments were found in the remains of royal archive. These texts date back to the mid to late 2nd millennium BCE. Luwian, Lycian, and Lydian are other examples of families belongs to this group. So these all are the examples which have been descendant of this Anatolian branch. Which that means these all are the things, these all are the places, these all are the language, these all are the places where the language has derived as per the branch which we have discussed, right? So these all are the things which belongs to the same family, right? All languages of this branch are currently extinct. So now we cannot see that it was extinct, which was vanished. This branch has the oldest surviving evidence of an Indo-European language, right? So surviving evidence of an Indo-European language dated about 1800 BCE. So at present, do we find Anatolian branch? No. It is clearly given that it was extinct. At present, it was not there. But then exam point of view, we have to know about this branch. So this branch is a very, very important branch. In which portion? Turkey. Isn't it? The most famous of these languages is Hittite. So what do you mean by Hittite? The ancient people who have used it, right? So Hitasis in the sense what? It is a capital of Hittite Empire in late Bronze, right? So these are the important points. These texts date back to the mid to late 2nd millennium BC. Luwian, Lycian, and Lydian are other examples of families, that means which belongs to this Anatolian branch. So all these were at present, it was extinct, it was not there. But this branch was the oldest surviving evidence. Though it is extinct, but then this is one of the foundation which has given life to the language at present, right? So these are the important points which we need to know about this Anatolian branch. Let's see some other important aspects about the other branches, right? Let us see the second one, that is Indo-Iranian branch. So let us see the second one, that is Indo-Iranian branch. What is this? Let's see. So this branch includes two sub branches. What are the
Indo-Iranian. So you may be getting a question in such a way that, so what were the two branches that have been included, that have been indulged in Indo-Iranian? Then you must give the answer like Indic and Iranian. Indic and Iranian are the two branches which have been imbibed in Indo-Iranian branch. Today, these languages are predominant. Predominant means, I told you very clearly, it is main or chief. Where it is very predominant in India, Pakistan, Iran, and its vicinity. And also in areas from the Black Sea to Western China. Right, so very, very important. So vicinity in this, don't confuse, it is surroundings. It is surroundings, right? Surroundings, right? So this branch includes two things, isn't it? Includes two sub-branches. What were that sub-branches as I discussed with you, like Indic and Iranian, right? So where it is very predominant, it is predominant in India, Pakistan, Iran, and its vicinity. That means its surroundings. And also in areas, some of the from the Black Sea to Western China. So that means see, as I discussed with you earlier, that Hindi languages is the mixture of Urdu as well, Hindi, and also we see the Telangana people what the accent they use. So most of the words, Urdu words, have been used in their language. Even nowadays, the people who are speaking in Telugu, so if they speak for 1 hour, definitely one or the other word that comes from that English words have been used in their dialogue, in their language, right? So such a way here, these words have been extracted in such a manner. Sanskrit, which belongs to the Indic sub-branch, isn't it? Sanskrit is one of the, that means Sanskrit or Sanskrit, which belongs to Indic sub-branch. Indic sub-branch in the sense as the language, which is very important, which the language in these places has derived. So sub-branch, it is the best known among the early languages of this branch. This is the, I mean, when compared with the previous branch which we have discussed, this is the best one. Its oldest variety, Vedic Sanskrit, is preserved in the Vedas. So this, this dialect or this language, the oldest variety which has been used, right? So it is yet preserved in the Vedas, right? The Vedas have been written. This Indo-Iranian language has been used over there, and it was used over there, and it yet preserved, and we are praising it. A collection of hymns, the prayer songs which we listen, and other religious texts of ancient India. Indic speakers entered into the Indian subcontinent. Indic speakers entered into the Indian subcontinent, and it was spread in such a manner, coming from Central Asia around 1500 BCE. In the Rig Veda, the hymn 1.131 speaks about a legendary journey that may be considered a distant memory of this migration, that means which has been shifted. So Indo-Iranian, so some of the value points, let us discuss again. Indo-Iranian, it is the mixture, or it is the one which indulged with two branches, that is Indic as well Iranian. Today these languages are very, very important in which areas? India, Pakistan, and Iran, and its surroundings also. Right. So Sanskrit, which belongs to Indic sub-branch, isn't it? Sanskrit, the language Sanskrit, which was one of the most predominant one, which belongs to Indic sub-branch, right? And also it is discussed that in Vedic Sanskrit, it is preserved in the Vedas, and hymns, as I discussed, the prayer songs and all, isn't it? Religious text, it has, that means this language, this has been used in that particular Vedas, and it has been preserved in the Rig Veda. The hymn 1.31 speaks about the legendary journey that may be considered a distant memory of this migration, how it has been migrated, shifted from one place to another place, and all it has been discussed, right? This is all about this. Now let's get into another branch. Today, many Indic languages are spoken in India and Pakistan, such as Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi, and Bengali. Iranian languages such as Farsi, modern Persian, Pashto, Kurdish are spoken in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and Tajikistan. So these are the important points when it comes to the Indo-Iranian. So even now, it's in the, that means it is in the tender. It's, I mean, that means it is which was in the tender stage, right? So when compared to the previous one, it was furnished, nowhere it is found. But then here, this is the one, Anatolian. Anatolian is a language, it has been extinct. It was nowhere found. But then when it comes to the Indo-Iranian, this is the language which has been derived and which has been saved in the form of Vedas, which have been preserved. And today, even today, it has been used by the many Indic languages are spoken in India and Pakistan. Right? These are the important points that we need to know about the language. Right? Now let's get into the Greek. So coming to the Greek, so many of them might have known about the Greek, right? So right, let us see. Yeah, let us see about the Greek. So rather than a branch of languages, Greek is a group of dialects. So what do you mean by languages and what is dialect? So this is a big question. It's a big confusion. Every time it makes the people to confuse. Language is different from the dialect, right? So what is language? Languages are broads. Languages are broads. Dialects are smaller and more specific individuals, right? So why did I say these languages are broader? Because every state, every state it has its own language, right? So, but as coming to the dialect, it is different from one place to another place. They may be the same language, but the way they were speaking is different, right? So that is a difference which we can observe. So language as a thought offers more formal and clearly defined, whereas dialect can be looser and more fluid in use, right? So this is about the dialect, the difference between the dialect as well languages. During more than 3,000 years of written history, Greek dialects never evolved into mutually incomprehensible languages. Greek was predominant and very, very important in which areas? Southern end of the Balkans, Peloponnese Peninsula, that means which are in the surroundings of this particular place, right? So what is that? That is Peloponnese and the Aegina Sea and its vicinity. Vicinity, as I told you, surroundings. So that particular place is this Greek language is very, very important. It was very, very famous and which is used by the people at that. So the earliest surviving written evidence of the Greek languages in Mycenaean, the dialect of Mycenaean civilization, mainly found on clay tablets, where it was found mainly on clay tablets and ceramic vessels. Right. So ceramic vessels, the vessels which have been used at that particular time, they used to write the script on in this particular language, which is very, very famous. Right. So Mycenaean did not have an alphabetic written system, right? If we want to write anything, we write like A, B, C, and we learn the language by using this alphabet, right? But then here, this alphabet is not used over there, right? So no, there is no alphabetic written system. Rather, it had a syllabic script. It had a syllabic script known as linear beat script. So we have language, isn't it? So what is that language? We have the language there we are learning with alphabet. We learn A to Z words, isn't it? As well, after learning that, we will be learning the words. After learning the words, we will be learning sentences and all. Such a way we learn, right? But whereas in this Greek branch, so what in this Greek branch, in this Greek branch, there are no alphabetic written system. There are no alphabetic written system. But then what is the system they have? What is the system they have adopted? They have adopted, that is a syllabic script system. They have adopted syllabic script system. What is the syllabic script system? Just a minute. Right, this is syllabic script. So it is a linguistic study of a written language. A syllabary is a set of written symbols, right? It is a symbol. So something they want to project, they used to, symbols are used. But then we like A, B, C, and if you want to write something like words like ball, like and a cat. So we use these words. But then they used to project everything in the form of symbol. They used to project everything in the form of symbol, right? So, but then that means they used to have a syllabic script. As I told you, it is a symbol. It is a a projection in the form of a symbol. Greek system is a projection in the form of symbol. Mostly where it was observed, it is observed in ceramic vessels, isn't it? And also clay tablets and all, there it was observed. The first alphabetic inscriptions have been dated back to the early 8th century BCE, which is probably the time when the Homeric epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey, reached their present form. There were many Greek dialects in ancient times, but because of Athens culture, so what happened here? Because of Athens culture, right? Supremacy in the 5th century BCE, it was the Athens dialect called Attic, the one of the it became the standard literary language during the classical period. Therefore, the most famous Greek poetry and prose written in classical times were written in Attic. So Attic in the sense in the Greek history, which has been written in the history, right? Like by whom? By some of the great writers and or the authors like uh, Aristophanes, Aristotle, Euripides, and Plato are just a few examples of authors who wrote Attic. That means Attic in the sense here, Greek history. Generally, Attic in the sense we say that's one of the shelf which has been arranged in a room. But then Attic here, Attic indicates that the Greek history. So let us once again rewind the important aspects of this Greek branch. So this is the branch, isn't it? So we can say this is than a branch of language. We can say this is rather than a branch of language, it is a group of dialect. What is the difference between language and dialect? As I told you, languages are broad, dialects are smaller and more specific because it changes from one place to another place, maybe the same language, but the presentation is different from one place to another place, right? So more than 3,000 years of written history. Greek dialects never evolved in mutually incomprehensible languages, and also where we used to observe this Greek dialects, so most probably clay tablets and ceramic vessels. These are the important aspect which you need to remember as well. So what a Messenian did not have an alphabetic written system. They don't have alphabetic written system. What is the system they have followed? Syllabic script. Syllabic script in the sense, what do you mean by that? It is a that means which is projected in the form of symbol, right? So Athens started ruling at the time. What happened? So they came up with their own language, their own things. But then this Greek poetry, prose written in classical times, which have been written by many authors, and it was preserved. Well, who are the few examples? That means the authors have mentioned here. You can see that Aristophanes, Aristotle, Euripides, and Plato are just a few examples of authors who wrote Attic, right? So this is about the branch that is a Greek branch. Let's see another branch. So Italic. So what is Italic branch? Let us see. Let us see Italic branch. This branch was predominant, very, very important in which place? Italian Peninsula. This branch is very, very predominant in Italian Peninsula. So Italic branch is very famous at which particular place in the sense we can say it as Italian Peninsula. The Italic people were not natives of Italy. Then from where they have migrated? Let us see. So they are not native people of this Italy. They entered Italy crossing the Alps around 1000 BC. How they have entered? Crossing the Alps around 1000 BC and gradually moved southward. Latin, the most famous language in this group. So what they have migrated from some other place, that is crossing Alps around 1000 BC. So what is the main language for them? Latin. So what happened? These people have migrated from Latin to Italy. It was originally a relatively small local language spoken by pastoral tribes living in small agricultural settlements in the center of Italian peninsula. The first inscription in Latin appeared in the 7th century BCE, and by the 6th century BCE, it had spread significantly. Right, so such a way the language has spread, and the mixture of other dialects and other language and other pronunciation and all have been changed as these people have migrated from one place to another place. And coming to the Rome was responsible for the growth of Latin. In ancient times, classical Latin is a form of Latin used by the most famous works of Roman, right? Authors like Ovid, Cicero, Seneca, Pliny, and Marcus. So Rome was responsible, isn't it? So which is the most important aspect that helped in developing the Latin language in the sense Rome? Very, very important point, right? So, because here what happened, classical Latin in the form of Latin used by the most famous works of Roman authors. What are the authors like Ovid, Cicero, Seneca, Pliny, and Marcus, Aurelius, or these are the few poets who have brought up, who have given life to the language. Other languages of this branch are Phoenician, Sabellic, Ambrian, South Pacific, and Oscan, all of them extinct. These all are not there right now. We are not using all these languages, right? But then this using these languages, but it has given life to the language. Foundation has been given, isn't it? Many things have been brought up. That means the modifications have been brought up, right? So today, Romance languages are the only surviving descendants of the Italic branches at present. So which are the languages surviving descents of the Italic branch of Romans languages, right? Romans languages, very, very important point, right? Let's get into the another branch. Let's see the another branch here, that is Celtic branch. So what is the Celtic branch? Let us see now, right? So the Celtic branch tells us about, right. Let us see the Celtic branch. This Celtic branch contains two sub-branches. One is continental Celtic, insular Celtic. So this branch, Celtic branch, it is a continental Celtic as well insular Celtic. So sub-branches, two things together. By about 600 BCE, Celtic-speaking tribes had spread from what today are southern Germany, right? So these Celtic, the people who used to speak this Celtic, so that language have been, so they have migrated from which place, that is southern Germany, Austria, and Western Prussia, Republic in almost all directions, right? To France, Belgium, Spain, and the British Isles. Then by 400 BCE, they also moved southward into northern Italy and southeast into the Balkans and even beyond. During the early 1st century BCE, Celtic-speaking tribes dominated a very significant portion of Europe, right? So these people who have migrated, what happened? They started dominating. Whom they started dominating? So Europe people, right? On 50 BC, Julius Caesar conquered the Gaul, ancient France, and Britain was also conquered about a century later by the Emperor Claudius, right? So who here on 50 BCE, who conquered Gaul, ancient France, and Britain was also conquered about century later by the Emperor Claudius. As a result, this large Celtic speaking area was absorbed by Rome. So what happened when these places have been conquered? That means when they have conquered, when they have that the war which was happened in that war, that these leaders have gained the place, isn't it? They have got an authority, isn't it? Ruling that at that particular time, what happened? These Celtic people was absorbed by whom? By absorbed by Rome. The Rome. Latin became the dominant language. So when it has been happened, so what happened there? The prominent language is Latin. So as these people have migrated over there, so what happened? They have to follow the language what those people are speaking. That is what the Latin language has become most dominating language, and the continental Celtic languages eventually died out, right? See, if you are not permitted, if we are not permitted to speak one particular language, so what happens day by day, when generations are passing, what happened? The language dies, the language will be died. So it was the thing happened here. The chief continental language was Gaulish. So what is the important language that in that particular place it was used is Gaulish. Insular Celtic developed in British Isles after Celtic speaking, right? As I told you that the Celtic is the sub-branches of two sub-branches, that is continental Celtic and insular. As I discussed that continental Celtic, how it has been abolished, and as the place has been changed, how the people have migrated, and when the places have been conquered by few leaders, by monarchies, what happened? So these people were happened to get into the Rome, and when they were happened to go to the Rome, what happened? They were not permitted to speak this continental language, Celtic language. As that due to this reason, what happened? The continental Celtic language has died out. It was vanished, right? And coming to the insular Celtic, developed in the British Isles after Celtic speaking tribes entered around the 6th century BCE in Ireland. Insular Celtic flourished, aided by the geographical isolation, which kept Ireland relatively safe from the Roman and Anglo-Saxon invasions. The only Celtic languages still spoken today are Irish, Irish Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, Welsh, and Breton. All come from insular Celtic, right? So this is all about the Celtic. So what are the important aspects which you could remember from this is, it contains two sub-branches, that is continental Celtic and insular Celtic, right? Continental Celtic, isn't it? So what happened here? The people have been migrated from one place to another place, which have been, that is most of the tribes, village, like agricultural background. So what happened here? Celtic tribes dominated a very significant portion of Europe, and on which time during 50 BC, Julius Caesar conquered Gaul. Isn't the place Gaul? It has been conquered by the monarchy, that is Julius Caesar. And Britain was also conquered by a century later by whom? An emperor, that is Claudius. So as a result, what happened? This Celtic speaking people were absorbed by Rome. And Latin become the dominant language. As these people have been absorbed by the Rome, so what happened? Their Celtic speaking language, their mother tongue is Celtic speaking, but these people were not permitted because they were under the rule of those people, right? So what happens? So those people are not permitted to speak in that particular language. That is the reason here days are growing, generations have been passed. This continental Celtic language was dying, right? And then coming to the insular Celtic, developed in British Isles after Celtic speaking tribes entered around the 6th century BCE. The Ireland insulars have flourished. It was flourished even today, even now. So most of the words of the Celtic languages are spoken in Irish Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic, Welsh, and Britain. All come from insular Celtic. Right, hope it's very clear about this Celtic. Let's see about the Germanic. So what is this Germanic branch? Germanic branch is divided in three sub-branches. What are the three sub-branches? Let us see. So the three sub-branches are like East Germany, currently extinct, North Germany, those are all there, containing Old Norse, the ancestors of all modern Scandinavian languages, and West Germany, containing Old English, Old Saxon, Old High German. So about Old Saxon, Old English, we'll see in the next class. So the next class will be all about this Old English and Old Saxon. Don't miss the class. So if you want to get all these kind of classes, which are very, very important for this PhD entrance, UGC NET, and coming all upcoming JL, DL, and all, please like, share, subscribe my channel for all these videos and all kinds of classes which you want. So let's develop the knowledge and all. So if you are doubted about any other content, whatever the content you want, please put it in the chat box. So the earliest evidence of the Germanic speaking people dates back to first half of the first millennium BC. And they lived in an area stretching from southern Scandinavia to the coast of North Baltic Sea. During prehistoric times, the Germanic-speaking tribes came into contact with Finnic speakers in the north and also with Balto-Slavic tribes in the east. As a result of this interaction, the Germanic language borrowed several terms from Finnish and Balto-Slavic. Right, very, very important point. The earliest evidence of the German-speaking people dates back to first half of the first millennium BC. And they lived in an area stretching from southern Scandinavia. So where these people have lived in southern Scandinavia. So to the coast of North Baltic Sea. So where it was, that means at that particular area. During prehistoric times, Germanic-speaking tribes came into contact with Finnic speakers. So prehistoric times, what happened? here this German speaking people, the people who used to speak this German language, it was happened for them to be in contact with the Finnic speakers in the north and also with Balto-Slavic tribes. So what happened? At that particular time, it was happened for them to be in contact with these people and the language has been spread. So what here generally it was the thing happens that when we are speaking with other people who doesn't know our language, slowly in one or the other way, we start communicating with them and try to adopt their language and we try to produce their language to them. Right? Such a way the words passes and it happens for them to learn the language. The Germanic language borrowed several terms from Finnish and Balto-Slavic. Such a way it has brought up, that means it has gained many other words, isn't it, which belongs to that particular things. So several varieties of Old Norse were spoken by the most Vikings, native Nordic pre-Christian, Germanic mythology, and a folklore has also preserved in Old Norse in a dialect named Old Icelandic. So Dutch, English, Frisian, and Yiddish are some examples of modern survivors of the West Germanic subbranch. How the language has derived, how the language has came from that particular areas and all, and how it was derived. So these are the few places which tells that how it has been derived. Well, Danish, Faroese, Icelandic, Norwegian, and Swedish are survivors of the North Germany branch, right? So these all are about the Germany branch, right? Let's get into the next one. Let's get into the next branch. That is Armenian branch. So Armenian branch in the sense you might have known, you might have read about this Armenian branch. It's a simple one which we can easily remember it. The origin of the Armenian speaking people in a topic still unresolved. It is probable that the Armenians and the Phrygians are also a group of people which belongs to one particular community like Armenian. They belong to the same migratory. That means they have migrated, shifted from one place to another place. They that entered to Anatolia. To which place they have entered? They have entered to Anatolia. So Anatolia, it is a place coming from Balkans around the late second millennium. From which place they have migrated? They have migrated from the place that is Balkans. At what particular time? That is late second millennium BCE. The Armenians settled in an area around Lake Van, currently Turkey. This region belonged to the state of Urartu during the early first millennium BCE. In the 8th century BCE, Urartu came under Assyrian control, and in the 7th century BC, the Armenians took over the region. The Medes absorbed the region soon after the Armenia became a vassal state. During the time of Achaemenid Empire, the region turned into a Persian stature. The Persian domination had a strong linguistic impact on Armenian, right? Those people have occupied, that is what definitely there will be the impact when some others have occupied our place. Their impact will be there on that particular kingdom, and also that is what their impact was there over there. So which mislead many scholars in the past to believe that Armenian actually belonged to the Iranian group. So these are the reasons which made that scholars unbelievable, isn't it, that why Armenian actually belonged to the Iranian group. Once again, let's see the value points of this. The origins of Armenian speaking people in a topic still unresolved. It was still not captured. It is probable that the Armenians and the Phrygians belonged to the same migratory wave, right? So those people belongs to the same particular area. Entered to which place? That is Anatolia, coming from the Balkans around the late second millennium BC. The Armenians, where they have settled in an area around Lake Van, currently Turkey. This region belonged to the state of Urartu. So to which state it belongs to? Urartu. Such a way it has happened. And then later it was occupied during the time. So the people have been, it was occupied by the Achaemenid Empire. Then what happened? Their dominance have been started, isn't it? And their rule has been spread over there. So these all are the things which made scholars to believe that Armenian actually belongs to the Iranian group. Alright, this is all about the Armenian. Now let's see about the next branch. that is Tocharian. So what is this Tocharian? Let us see the Tocharian. Tocharian, here you can see this Tocharian. The history of Tocharian speaking people is still surrounded by mystery. Really, it's a mystery because it was not found. There is no, see, there is a birth we can find. We can see that when it happens and when the life will be ended, then there is a birth by seeing the date and all. But then when there is no the birth, and when it was not found clearly, that how could one can find that how it has derived, how it has taken the birth? We know that they lived in the Talmakan desert located in Western China. So what happened? It was a word that has been heard that people have been lived at Talmakan Desert. That is one of the place desert located in Western China. Where it was located? It was located in Western China. Most of the Tochavian texts left are translations from well-known Buddhist works. Right? So this has come from, that means from the Buddhist works. Through the Buddhist works, we came to know about the Tochavian branch. And all of these texts have been dated between the 6th and the 8th century CE. So when these have been when all these things have been dated, that means when it was observed 6th and 8th century CE, none of these texts speak about the Tocharians themselves. The texts will not speak about that particular branch. Two different languages belongs to this branch, that is Tocharian A and Tocharian B. Remains of the Tocharian A language have only been found in places where Tocharian B documents have also been found. Right. So it is also which is a mixture of two things, that is Tocharian A, Tocharian B. So where it has been observed in the works of the Buddhist, isn't it? The works which have been done by the Buddhist in that particular in their works, it was observed, right? Next. So here Tocharian B, which could suggest that Tocharian was here was already extinct. So not there, nowhere it was found. Kept alive only as a religious or poetic language, just as a religious poetic language. Tocharian B was the living language used for administrative purposes. So Tocharian A was extinct, but Tocharian B for administrative purposes. Many well-preserved mummies with causas or features such as tall stature, red, blonde, and brown hair have been discovered in the Taklamakan Desert, dating between 1800 BCE to 200 BCE. The weaving style, the pattern of their clothes, that means by finding one or the other indications in that particular desert, that is Taklamakan Desert. So when during the period that is 1800 BCE to 200 CE, the weaving style and patterns of their clothes is similar to the Halsted culture. So to which culture it is similar? Halsted culture in Central Europe. Physical analysis and genetic evidence have revealed resemblances with the inhabitants of the Western Eurasia. So at present, we are not using this language, but then we have to know the value points of this particular branch. That is what these are the important points, right? So it is a branch which is mixture of the two branches, that is Tocharian A, Tocharian B. Tocharian A is an extinct process, whereas Tocharian B, which is used in the administrative purposes. So coming to this language where we can find the where we could able to find some kind of things and all. That means about this language and all. So like a desert, which desert is Taklamakan Desert. So what some of the things which have been observed over there, like such as tall stature, red, blonde, and brown hair, which have been discovered over there. So based on that, they have found this branch, right? Let's see another branch. This branch is completely extinct, no doubt at all. We cannot use anywhere, and we can't see anything which is related to this Tocharian. Among all ancient Indo-European, Tocharian was spoken farthest to the east, very, very east, isn't it? Right. So Balto-Slavic, this is also the branch which is a combination of two branches like Baltic and Slavic. Right. So during the late Bronze Age, the Balts territory may have stretched from around Western Poland all the way across to the Ural Mountains. Afterwards, the Balts occupied a small region along the Baltic Sea. Right. During the late Bronze, the Balts territory may have stretched from around Western Poland all the way across to the Ural Mountains. Afterwards, The Balts occupied small region along the Baltic Sea. Those in the northern part of the territory occupied by the Balts were in close contact with Finnic tribes. So those are kinds of tribes, and that particular tribe's name is the Finns, whose language was not part of the Indo-European language family. Finnic speakers borrowed a considerable amount of Baltic words, which suggests that the Balts had an important cultural prestige in that area. Under the pressure of Gothic and Slavic migrations, the territory of Balts was reduced towards the 5th century CE. Archaeological evidence shows that from 1500 BCE, either the slaves or their ancestors occupied an area stretching from the near western Polish borders towards the Dnieper River in Belarus. During the 6th century CE, the slave-speaking tribes expanded their territory, migrating into Greece, isn't it, and the Balkans. This is when they are mentioned for the first time in Byzantine records, referring to the large migration. Either some or all of the slaves were once located further to the east, in or around Iranian territory, since many Iranian words were borrowed into the pre-Slavic at an early stage. Later on, as they moved westwards, they came into contact with German tribes and again borrowed several additional terms. Only two Baltic languages survive today. What are the Latvian and Lithuanian? A large number of Slavic languages survive today, such as Bulgaria, Czech, Croatian, Polish, Serbian, Slovak, Russian, and many others. Right? So this branch is also, which is the combination of two branches, that is Baltic and Slavic, right? So when during the late Bronze Age, when it was late Bronze Age, right? Balt's territory may have stretched. So here also people have migrated and the language has spread, right? So what happens? Stretched around Western Poland, from where it has stretched? Western Poland. So crossing the Ural Mountains. Which mountains? Ural Mountains. So afterwards, what happened? Balts, what they have done, they have occupied a small region where Baltic Sea, very, very important point. Those in the northern part of territory occupied by the Balts were in close contact with whom? Finnic tribes. When they have occupied, so they started being in contact with the Finnic tribes. So whose language was not part of the Indo-European language family. So what their language is not part of this. So the Finnic speakers borrowed a considerable amount of Baltic words. So what happened when these people have occupied that, then they started to be in contact with the Finnic tribes. So what happened? Words have been exchanged. Why? Because those people are not very familiar with this Indo-European language. That is what the Finnic speakers borrowed a considerable amount of words from this Baltic language. Right? Such a way the language has been spread. So very important points. Right. Let's see the next one. Yeah, let us see the next. So Balto-Slavic, hope this is very clear to you. Yeah. So Albanian. So Albanian is the last branch of Indo-European languages. Why? To appear in written form. So it is the last one. There are two hypotheses of this origin of Albanian. The first one says that Albanian is a modern descendant of the Illyrian, a language which was widely spoken in the region during classical times. This is the last one. And it is also about that which what here hypothesis of the original Albanian. The first one says that Albanian is modern descendant. That means as per the modern language which we are speaking. Since we know very little about Illyrian, this assertion can be neither denied nor confirmed from a linguistic standpoint. From a historical and geographical perspective, however, this assertion makes sense. Another hypothesis says that Albanian is a descendant. So one study it tells like this, and another study what it tells that this is the descendant which has been borrowed, which has been brought up from where Thracian, another lost language that was spoken farthest east than Illyrian. So what which has been, that means from the past world, that means initially when it was there. Today Albanian is spoken in Albania, in which place at present this Albanian language is spoken at Albania as the official language. In several other areas of the former Yugoslavia and also in small enclaves in southern Italy, Greece, and Republic of Mygdonia. So this is about the Albania branch. So these are the important things. And coming to the next one, that is Grimsla. What is Grimsla? Those are the branches which we have studied. Now let's learn about the Grimsla. After all these things, let's know about this Grimsla. Grimsla defines the relationship between certain stop of consonants. See what happened here. We started using this grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and all. So while we are speaking, so where which has to be pronounced in which sense, right? So that pronunciation has brought up from this Grimsla. So Grimsla defines the relationship between certain stop consonants in Germanic languages and their originals in Indo-European. These consonant observant shifts that change the way they're pronounced. Isn't it? As we're discussing that few words have been changed. That means British English like this, American English like this, the pronunciation of this is like this. Such a we learn about many more things, right? So here Grimsla states about the pronunciation. So this law is also known as the Germanic consonant shift. That means when the language has been derived, when the language has brought up from one to another, so what happened? A few things have been changed. The pronunciation has been changed. How the pronunciation has been shifted. This last states is. So first a consonant shift, the first Germanic sound shift, and a Rask's rule. So these are the things which have been applied in the Grimm's law, and the language the pronunciation has been done. The basic principle of Grimm's law was discovered in the early 19th century by Danish scholar Rasmus Rask. Very, very important, right? So very, very important. So Grimm's law was discovered in the early 19th century by whom? Danish scholar Rasmus Rask. Who is that? Rasmus Rask. Sooner it was outlined in detail by German philologist Jacob Grimm. Right. So then what happened? It has been outlined. That is a particular shape, structure, and it has been given by the philologist, that is Jacob Grimm. It was given as the name, that is Grimm's law. What was once a probing theory is now a well-established law in the field of linguistics. So what happened? It was proposed, it was brought up, but then for that particular thing, the language which has been derived, which has been used in this modern world with a proper style, proper pronunciation, proper vocabulary, and all that was given life by this Jacob Grimm. That was this law is given by the name of this scholar, that is Grimm's law. Grimm's law was the first discovery of systematic sound change. Systematically, how the first sound has to be changed, that states this Grimm's law. And it led to the creation of historical phonology, which tells us about the sound as a separate discipline of historical linguistics. The correspondence of between Latin T and Germanic F was first noted by Frederick von Schlegel in 1806. Right. So this is all about the Grimm's law. Grimm's law states us about the pronunciation, the sounds and all. Right. So how the sounds have been shifted from one language to another language. Those all things we'll learn in this Grimm's law. Right. This is all about the Grimm's law. So here ends the class, children, students. Hope the class is very clear. So keep watching my videos. So I just want to cover all the important aspects which are very, very important for this PhD and all entrance. Upcoming all the examination of it is every examination which is added up with this English content, methodology, as well the long literature, which is very, very important. So hope you like my video. If you need anything, please comment in the comment box. Thank you. Have a nice day.